Everyone wants success, but very few are willing to pay the real price for it. You don't have to be the most talented, you just have to be the one who refuses to stop. Motivation fades. Discipline endures. That's why most people quit and the few keep rising. There's a universal myth that runs deep in almost every culture, the myth that talent alone is what sets people apart. We love the idea of someone being born gifted, a natural prodigy who can just step into greatness without the same struggles as everyone else. It's a compelling story, but it's also dangerously misleading. Because when you look closely at the individuals who achieve the highest levels of success, the truth is undeniable. Talent may open the door, but it is work ethic that keeps that door from closing. Work ethic is the great equalizer. Think of talent as a seed. A seed has potential, but it's useless unless it's nurtured. The soil, the sunlight, the water, the daily care, those are the equivalents of effort and discipline. Without consistent attention, the seed never grows. And here's the harsh reality. In the real world, there are millions of seeds. Talent is common, but a relentless commitment to work is rare. It's the rare person who wakes up earlier, stays later, and gives more focus to their craft than anyone else who eventually stands out. History shows us countless examples. Take athletes, for instance. We remember the highlight reels, the perfect plays, the seemingly effortless performance. What we don't see are the hours upon hours of training when no one is in the stands, when no cameras are rolling, the sweat, the repetition, the pain, the failures. This is where greatness is actually forged. Every world-class athlete has competitors with similar talent, but the difference lies in the ones who train harder, who practice longer, who refuse to cut corners even when no one would know. That's work ethic overshadowing talent. In business, it's no different. Talent may help someone land a job or even give them a head start, but it's not enough to sustain long-term growth. A person who is willing to consistently learn, adapt, and put in the extra hours will eventually surpass the one who relies only on natural intelligence. Why? Because talent without effort is static. It doesn't move forward. Meanwhile, effort compounds day after day, hour after hour, small gains accumulate until the once less talented individual has built a mountain of progress. Think about this. The marketplace doesn't reward potential. It rewards results. Results come from execution. And execution comes from work. A person may have the sharpest mind or the most creative ideas, but unless they are willing to put in the sweat to bring those ideas to life, they remain fantasies. On the other hand, someone with average ability but extraordinary work ethic can transform ideas into action, action into outcomes, and outcomes into success. The formula is simple. Effort beats talent when talent doesn't put in the effort. There's also a psychological edge to work ethic. When you commit yourself to working harder than everyone else, you build resilience. You teach yourself to endure discomfort, to embrace the grind, to push through the moments when others stop. Talent does not prepare you for resistance. Work ethic does. Talent might give you a head start in the race, but work ethic is what carries you through the final stretch. When your legs are burning, when your lungs are gasping, when your mind is telling you to quit, those who depend solely on talent often crumble under pressure because they've never had to build the mental toughness that only effort develops. Work ethic also creates credibility. People trust the one who shows up consistently, who does the hard work even when it's inconvenient. Talent may impress people initially, but over time it's reliability that earns respect. The colleague who always prepares, the leader who outworks the team, the entrepreneur who sacrifices weekends to refine their product. These are the individuals people want to follow because deep down, we admire effort more than we admire raw talent. Effort feels human. It reminds us that greatness is accessible, that we too can rise if we're willing to pay the price. There is another layer to this truth. Talent fades without effort. Skills are perishable. If they aren't sharpened, they dull. If they aren't stretched, they weaken. A naturally talented person who grows complacent will eventually be surpassed by someone who is obsessed with improvement. This is why so many promising careers stall. People rely too heavily on what they're good at instead of pushing themselves to keep growing. Meanwhile, the person with relentless work ethic never stops building, never stops learning, never stops preparing. Over time, the gap becomes undeniable. It's easy to admire talent, but it's not enough to admire. It's about how you use it. The truth is, talent without work ethic is like a car without fuel. You might look beautiful in the garage, but it will never go anywhere. Work ethic is the fuel that drives talent forward. And when someone possesses both, yes, they can achieve extraordinary things. But here's the twist. Even if you weren't born with remarkable talent, extraordinary work ethic can still take you further than you ever imagined. Because while you can't always control talent, you can absolutely control your effort.
The reality is, hard work is uncomfortable. It's demanding. It forces you to sacrifice time, energy, and often comfort. But that is exactly why most people don't embrace it. They wait for motivation, or they fall back on their natural ability, hoping it will carry them through. And this is where the opportunity lies. If you are willing to outwork others, to put in the hours they avoid, to stay committed when they give up, you position yourself not just to compete, but to dominate. Talent may be given, but work ethic is a choice, a daily deliberate choice to do what others won't. Motivation is powerful, but it is fleeting. It's like a spark that catches fire quickly, burns brightly, and then fades just as fast. We all know that feeling. The surge of inspiration after watching a powerful video, listening to a moving speech, or reading a story that lights a fire inside us. In those moments, everything feels possible. We make promises to ourselves, set bold goals, and imagine the life we want to create. But the problem with motivation is that it doesn't last. The spark fizzles out, and when it does, most people stop. They wait for the next burst of inspiration, the next external push, the next moment that will reignite the flame. That cycle is the reason why so many dreams remain unfulfilled. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't rely on emotion or circumstance. Discipline is the choice to act consistently, regardless of how you feel. It's waking up at 5 in the morning, even when you're tired. It's going to the gym when you'd rather stay in bed. It's showing up for work, for your business, for your craft, when every part of you wants to take a day off. Discipline is steady, reliable, and unshakable. Where motivation comes and goes, discipline endures. That's why discipline over motivation is the real key to outworking everyone.
The world often praises those who appear naturally motivated, as though they're running on an endless supply of energy and inspiration. But if you look closely at the most successful individuals, you'll find that they don't depend on motivation to guide them. They've trained themselves to rely on structure, habits, and self-control. They don't ask, do I feel like it today? Because feelings aren't part of their equation. They understand that waiting to feel inspired is just another form of procrastination. So they build their lives around disciplined systems and routines that carry them forward when motivation inevitably runs out. Consider how this applies to any form of mastery. A writer doesn't complete a book by waiting for inspiration to strike. They complete it by sitting at the desk every single day, writing through the boredom, through the doubt, through the resistance. A musician doesn't master their instrument by practicing only when they feel inspired. They play scales for hours, repeating the same notes until their fingers ache. An athlete doesn't achieve peak performance by training only on the days they feel good. They show up to the field or the gym even when their body hurts, even when they're exhausted, even when they don't want to. That's the discipline that separates amateurs from professionals.
There's also something freeing about discipline. Motivation ties you to your emotions, which are unstable and unpredictable. Discipline liberates you from that. With discipline, you don't have to negotiate with yourself every morning about whether you're in the mood to act. The decision has already been made. The routine is set, you simply do what you committed to do, no matter what. That consistency builds momentum, and momentum builds results. And over time, the compounding effect of discipline produces achievements that motivation alone could never sustain.
Discipline also breeds trust within yourself. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you reinforce the belief that you can rely on yourself. You build internal credibility. When you say you'll do something and then follow through consistently, your self-confidence grows. On the other hand, when you rely on motivation, you're constantly making and breaking promises to yourself. You say you'll start the diet when you feel ready, or you'll pursue your dream project when the timing feels right, or you'll push harder when you're inspired. But that day rarely comes, and every time you postpone, you weaken your trust in yourself. Discipline fixes that cycle by removing the option to delay. Another truth is that discipline prepares you for the moments when everything feels hardest. When challenges hit, motivation disappears almost instantly. Stress, fatigue, and setbacks kill inspiration, But discipline is the anchor that holds you steady in the storm. It tells you, this is what I do, no matter what. And because of that, you're able to keep moving forward when others stop. You're able to stay in the fight when others walk away. That resilience, built through discipline, becomes your competitive advantage. The beauty of discipline is that it's not about grand gestures. It's about small, consistent choices. Waking up at the same time, following through on the workout, completing the tasks, saying no to distractions, doing these things day after day is unglamorous and it doesn't make headlines. But it's exactly those choices that build extraordinary results. Motivation might get you started, but discipline ensures you finish. The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack motivation. They fail because they lack discipline. They start strong, but can't sustain the effort. Once the initial excitement wears off, they confuse the feeling of being inspired with the habit of being consistent. But life rewards consistency, not occasional bursts of energy, to truly outwork everyone. You have to stop relying on feelings and start relying on systems. You have to embrace the grind of discipline and understand that it's not about how excited you are in the beginning, but how committed you remain in the long run. When people think of success, they often picture big breakthroughs, giant leaps, and dramatic wins. They imagine one decisive moment where everything changes. But in reality, success is rarely built in a single defining moment. It's not one act of brilliance that sets people apart. It's the quiet, repeated actions that compound over time. Consistency is the hidden multiplier of success. And the reason it's so powerful is because of how small, seemingly insignificant actions stack on top of each other until they create results far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Think of consistency like interest in a bank account. One deposit may not seem like much. A week of effort may look unimpressive. Even a few months of hard work might not show visible results. But when you keep adding to that account every day, when you keep depositing energy, time, and discipline into your craft, the effect compounds. One day you look back and realize the small daily deposits have turned into a fortune of progress. The same principle applies in every area of life: fitness, career, relationships, learning. The compound effect of consistency turns average effort into extraordinary outcomes. The human tendency is to underestimate the power of small actions. We believe that if something doesn't create instant results, it isn't working. That's why so many people quit too early. They want to see transformation overnight. And when they don't, they assume their effort doesn't matter. But success doesn't work like that. The person who goes to the gym 3 times a week may not notice a difference in the mirror after the first month. But after a year, the transformation is undeniable. The entrepreneur who makes a single phone call every day may not see results in the first few weeks. But after a year, they've built a massive network and a pipeline of opportunities. The student who studies for an hour each evening may not feel smarter at the end of a week. But after a semester, their knowledge base is miles ahead. Consistency is invisible in the moment, but undeniable in the long run. Consistency also builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you follow through, you prove to yourself that you're reliable. That inner trust compounds into confidence, and that confidence fuels greater effort. On the flip side, when you're inconsistent, when you show up sometimes and not others, you weaken that trust. You start doubting yourself. You hesitate, and hesitation kills momentum. The simple act of being consistent, showing up day after day, regardless of how you feel, removes doubt and creates a rhythm that makes progress inevitable. There is also a psychological advantage to consistency. It turns effort into habit. At first, doing the hard thing feels like a conscious struggle. You have to fight resistance. You have to argue with yourself to start. But over time, repeated effort rewires the brain. What was once difficult becomes automatic. The workout becomes part of your routine. The study session becomes non-negotiable. The daily writing becomes a natural part of your day. And when the action becomes a habit, it requires less mental energy to maintain. That's the point where consistency really starts to compound, when it stops being something you force and starts being something you simply do. Consistency also makes you reliable to others. In every field, people value those who can be counted on. Talent is attractive, but it's useless if it shows up unpredictably. Consistency builds a reputation. If you're the person who delivers, who shows up, who can be trusted to perform, opportunities will find you. Leaders, teams, and partners gravitate to those who are steady. That trust doesn't come from one moment of excellence,
It comes from a track record of showing up consistently. Another truth about consistency is that it outpaces intensity. Many people start with bursts of energy, going all in for a short period of time. They burn hot, but they also burn out. The gym goer who trains obsessively for 2 weeks and then quits accomplishes less than the one who trains moderately for a year. The entrepreneur who works in frantic sprints but collapses in exhaustion will fall behind the one who maintains steady progress. Intensity can create a spark, but it's consistency that carries the flame forward. The long game is always won by the one who refuses to stop, who values steady effort over short-lived enthusiasm. What makes consistency difficult is that it often feels boring. It lacks drama. It lacks the excitement of new beginnings and the adrenaline of big wins. It's the daily grind, the unglamorous repetition of small actions that don't feel significant in isolation. But that is exactly why it works. Most people can't endure the monotony of consistency. They crave excitement, and when the process becomes dull, they abandon it. Those who can embrace the boredom, who can commit to the process even when it feels repetitive, separate themselves from the rest. They keep stacking effort upon effort until the results speak for themselves.
Consistency creates compounding results because it bridges the gap between effort and time. Time is a force multiplier. When combined with consistent effort, it produces exponential growth. Skills sharpen, habits solidify, networks expand, opportunities multiply. Each day of consistency doesn't just add to your progress, it multiplies it. And while others are stopping and starting, gaining and losing momentum, you quietly keep moving forward, building an advantage that can't be matched by sporadic bursts of effort. Every person wants success, but not every person is willing to pay the price. That is the dividing line between those who live an average life and those who achieve greatness. Sacrifice is the currency of success. The people who rise to the top, the ones who separate themselves from the pack, are the ones willing to give up comfort, convenience, and short-term pleasure in exchange for long-term growth. Outworking everyone isn't just about hours of labor, it's about the choices you make, the things you say no to, and the willingness to embrace discomfort while others chase ease. The truth is, every opportunity comes with a cost. When you decide to focus on your goals, you're also deciding to let go of something else. That might mean less time with friends, fewer nights of entertainment, or missing out on immediate gratification. Most people aren't willing to give those things up. They want both comfort and success, both leisure and achievement. But the elite understand a different truth. To gain something extraordinary, you have to give up something ordinary. You can't keep everything and expect to move forward. Sacrifice creates the space and energy needed for greatness to grow.
Look at any world-class performer, whether in sports, business, or the arts, and you'll find a story of sacrifice. The athlete who wakes before dawn for training doesn't have the luxury of late nights or endless social outings. The entrepreneur who builds a company from the ground up sacrifices weekends, sleep, and often financial security. The artist who masters their craft spends countless hours practicing when no one else is watching. These individuals made a choice. They traded comfort for mastery. They traded short-term pleasure for long-term purpose. That is what separates them from those who only dream.
Sacrifice also reveals commitment. It's easy to talk about ambition, to make bold declarations about what you want in life, but words are cheap. True commitment is measured by what you're willing to give up. If you claim you want to be great, but you're unwilling to change your habits, your priorities, or your routines, then your ambition is just wishful thinking. Sacrifice is proof. It shows that you value your vision enough to let go of distractions. It demonstrates that your goals are not just hopes, but non-negotiables. What makes sacrifice difficult is that it often requires going against the current of society. The world encourages comfort. Everywhere you look, there are temptations designed to keep you distracted, entertained, and complacent. Social media, endless streaming, unhealthy habits. These are the easy escapes that most people choose, and that is why most people remain average. To be elite, you have to resist those temptations. You have to be willing to miss out on what everyone else is doing, so you can focus on what almost no one else is willing to do. It feels lonely at times. It feels isolating, but it is in that space of sacrifice that you carve out a path others can't follow. Sacrifice is also tied to patience. When you give something up, you're making a bet on the future. You're saying, I believe what I'm working toward is worth more than what I'm giving up right now. That belief requires faith in the long-term process. It's far easier to take the immediate reward.
It's easier to say yes to comfort now than to believe in a distant payoff. But those who achieve greatness understand that delayed gratification is the key. They endure the present sacrifice because they know the future reward will be worth it.
There is also a deeper level of sacrifice
That involves identity. To truly outwork everyone, you have to let go of the version of yourself that settles for less. You have to sacrifice excuses, limiting beliefs, and comfort zones. You can't carry your old habits and expect to build a new life. Sacrifice is not just about giving up external things. It's about shedding the internal patterns that keep you average. That might mean sacrificing laziness, fear of failure, or the need for approval. It means stepping into discomfort again and again until resilience becomes part of who you are.
Sacrifice sharpens focus. When you eliminate distractions, when you let go of the unnecessary, you free your energy for what truly matters. The average person spreads their attention across countless trivial pursuits, never giving full effort to anything. The elite concentrate their attention like a laser. They sacrifice the noise so they can amplify the signal. That singular focus is what allows them to achieve mastery while others remain scattered. And there's another truth. Sacrifice compounds just like consistency does. Each time you give something up for the sake of your vision, you strengthen your discipline. You build a track record of choices that reinforce your identity as someone who prioritizes growth over comfort. Those choices stack, creating momentum. Eventually, sacrifice stops feeling like loss and starts feeling like empowerment. It becomes a reminder that you are in control, that you are choosing a path others avoid, and that your willingness to pay the price is what makes you unstoppable. At the beginning of any journey, energy is high. Motivation is fresh, excitement is alive, and the dream feels close enough to touch. But as time passes, that initial rush fades, the obstacles begin to appear. The work grows heavier, and the grind starts to feel endless. This is the moment where most people slow down or give up altogether. What keeps some people pushing forward while others quit isn't luck, and it isn't just discipline, it's purpose. Purpose is the deep reason behind the effort, the fuel that keeps endurance alive when the road gets long and the rewards feel far away. Purpose gives meaning to the struggle. Without it, the work feels like punishment. A series of empty tasks strung together with no direction. But when you tie your effort to something bigger than yourself, every challenge takes on new significance. The early mornings, the sacrifices, the failures, they all become part of a larger story, a mission that transcends the discomfort of the present moment. Purpose transforms hardship into investment. You're no longer just grinding for the sake of grinding, you're building towards something that matters deeply to you. Think about the difference between someone who goes to the gym just to look good and someone who trains because they want to live long enough to see their children grow up. The first person will quit when the workout's become inconvenient. When the soreness outweighs the vanity, the second person endures because their purpose is stronger than their excuses. Purpose gives endurance a foundation. It's not about how much you can take in the short term. It's about why you're willing to keep taking it for as long as it takes.
Purpose also sharpens focus. When you know why you're doing something, you stop wasting energy on distractions. Every choice is filtered through that lens. Does this bring me closer to my purpose, or does it pull me away? That clarity is a weapon. It allows you to conserve your energy for what truly matters while others scatter their efforts on meaningless pursuits. The average person struggles with discipline because they lack a clear why. The elite stay consistent because their purpose gives them direction.
Endurance is rarely about physical capacity alone. It's about mental and emotional strength. And mental strength is born from meaning. A person without purpose will crumble under pressure because pain without meaning feels unbearable. But pain with meaning is tolerable. It even becomes a form of pride. You endure not in spite of the difficulty, but because the difficulty is part of proving your commitment to what matters. The struggle validates the purpose, and the purpose validates the struggle. They feed each other, creating a cycle of endurance that outlasts anything motivation alone could sustain. Purpose also creates resilience against failure. Everyone fails. Everyone faces setbacks. But without purpose, failure feels final. It feels like proof that you aren't capable. With purpose, failure feels like feedback. It becomes a necessary step on the path. You're willing to try again and again because the mission matters more than the embarrassment or the pain of falling short. The people who outwork everyone aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who keep going because their why is stronger than their fear of losing. There's a reason why the most driven individuals often tie their work to something greater than themselves. A parent pushing to create a better future for their family. A leader striving to solve a problem that affects millions. An artist creating not just for fame, but to leave a message that outlives them. These people endure longer, push harder, and outlast the competition because their effort is fueled by something bigger than personal gain. Purpose creates a sense of responsibility. It's no longer just about you. It's about the people you're serving, the vision you're protecting, the legacy you're building, and responsibility is one of the most powerful motivators of endurance.
Purpose is also a compass in moments of doubt. When the path isn't clear, when progress feels slow, when the temptation to quit whispers in your ear, purpose reminds you of why you started. It reconnects you to the bigger picture. Instead of focusing only on the pain of the present, you see the meaning of the journey. That perspective allows you to endure storms that would break others. You're not just surviving the process, you're anchored by a reason that makes the process worth it.
Endurance without purpose eventually runs out. No matter how disciplined you are, no matter how strong your willpower may be, there will come a moment when the weight feels too heavy. In that moment, the only thing that keeps you moving is the belief that your work matters. Purpose gives you that belief. It turns exhaustion into persistence, frustration into patience, and setbacks into stepping stones. It is the fuel that doesn't burn out because it's not based on emotion, it's based on meaning. When you look at those who seem unstoppable, who keep showing up year after year, pushing through adversity while others fade away, what you're really seeing is not just discipline, not just talent, not just hard work. You're seeing purpose at work. You're seeing individuals who found a reason so strong, so personal, so deeply rooted that quitting isn't even an option. For them, endurance is not about willpower alone. It's about alignment. Their daily actions align with their ultimate why, and that alignment gives them the strength to outlast everyone around them. When you strip away all the noise, outworking everyone isn't about being the smartest, the strongest, or even the most talented. It's about the choices you make every single day. It's about choosing work ethic over talent. Because effort always beats potential when potential refuses to put in the work. It's about choosing discipline over motivation. Because feelings fade but habits endure. It's about understanding that consistency compounds, that small repeated actions over time create results no burst of energy could ever match. It's about sacrifice. The willingness to give up comfort now so you can step into greatness later. And above all, it's about purpose. Because purpose gives you the strength to endure long after others have quit. Outworking everyone is not a moment. It's not a season. It's a way of life. It's the quiet commitment to do what others won't, to push when others stop, and to keep showing up long after the excitement has disappeared. It's the relentless pursuit of growth, fueled not by chance, but by choice. And if you choose it, if you truly live it, you won't just outwork everyone. You'll outlast them, outgrow them, and ultimately redefine what's possible for yourself and for those who follow.